It's Wednesday, the 14th of August, 2024, and you're watching Primetime News. Good evening to our global audience, and thanks for making a date with us for the next 20 minutes. Unpacking the stories behind the headlines. I'm Michael Madimba. Leading tonight's bulletin. The Boundaries Delimitation and Demarcation Commission met with President Nangolo Mbumba earlier today to present its progress report. Now, led by Acting Judge Petrus Sunengu, the Commission is tasked with assessing the current boundaries of regions as well as constituencies in Namibia with the aim of recommending any necessary changes. Andreas Thomas and Sylvia Hashandali were in attendance and bring us our lead report.
Thereafter, the Commission embarked upon regional consultations that commenced on the 6th of May this year and conducted a two-day public hearing in all regions and concluded the assignment on the 27th of June again this year. So during the public hearings, the Commission received both oral and written submissions from various stakeholders, interest groups, and ordinary individuals. So in this report now, so the Commission will present an outline of key observations from all the regions and final work that must still to be conducted. I am undertaking to submit the final report to yourself as required then, as I said, in terms of Section 5(2)(b) of the Regional Councils Act 22 of 1992 as amended.
Moving on to northern Namibia, where Governor of the Oshana region, Alia Irimari, held a meeting earlier today with constituency councillors, senior traditional leaders, the Namibian police force officers and national park officials to discuss the fight against wildlife crimes in and around Etosha National Park. Sylvia Hashandali has the details.
Wildlife conservation, it's one of the most important ones. If you are not protecting the little wildlife we have, so that will become a distant memories for our future generation to come. And they will only be hearing that there used to be elephants, or they will be hearing you used to have lions here. And our regarias will only be having pictures of a lion, but we don't have a lion in realities.
We just have to clarify, we just have to repeat that whatever that that is happening in Etosha is still there. We are still protecting men and women, being your children, members of your society, your brothers. We are there, men and women, protecting what is so dear to our country. The Etosha National Park is cohabitating a lot of plants, a lot of animals, wild animals. We have experienced from just January up to the end of June, over 30 rhinos has been poached.
Sure.
And what we are saying is that is so precious. We are accommodating a lot of visitors there.
To the Omaheke region, where Minister of Agriculture, Water and Land Reform, Carla Schleitwein, engaged with farmers in Leonardville. The meeting aimed to update the community on potential mining activities in the region. Here is an insert from the minister's engagement.
And I think it is very, very important to mention it here, because we know that we have a mining development here that makes use of the water resource, that there is a possibility that we can mine in the aquifer where there are mineral deposits. So we are not against development of these economic possibilities. But we must make sure that they don't put in jeopardy a principal enabler for life at all. So we need very carefully to see, through analyzing the methods, analyzing the effects of that operation, whether it is safe to do it or not. So we are not against it in principle, we are just worried that a huge resource may be placed in jeopardy through pollution. And we want to prevent that. So we need a little bit of time to study and make sure, okay, it can be mitigated, then it can go ahead. If it is not okay, then our advice, unfortunately, will be it's not possible.
Now, opposition leader Mark Henry Venani has pledged his support to the former Kenyan Prime Minister Raila Odinga for the chairmanship of the African Union. The veteran Kenyan politician is one of 4 candidates who have expressed the intention to run for the top post of the AU Commission. More on this story.
In a statement on Tuesday, Venani lauded Odinga as one of the most influential and visionary politicians in Kenya and Africa, with exceptional contributions to the political and economic landscape of the region. He said Odinga, who was Kenyan Prime Minister from 2008 to 2013, has consistently championed progressive policies and initiatives that resonate deeply with the aspirations of the African people. As a result, he said Odinga is well positioned to advance the African Continental Free Trade Area. Venani said the AU stands at a pivotal juncture, with the AfCFTA offering unprecedented opportunities for economic growth and inclusive development across Africa. Sheila Perestrello reporting for Primetime News.
Now, the new chair will be elected at the 38th AU Summit in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia in February 2025. Stay tuned for your top roundup with the business segment thereafter. Welcome to the Primetime Biz, your leading source for all updates business related. We commence the segment with a sigh of relief for domestic consumers as the Bank of Namibia earlier today announced a 25 basis point reduction in the repo rate from 7.75% to 7.50%. The bank's governor urged commercial banks to decrease their lending rates by 25 basis points and speedily pass on the interest relief to borrowers. Our producer Lydia Pitiri captured the details.
In Namibia, economic activity remained on a recovery path, but with a lower growth rate forecast for 2024, in part due to drought-induced setbacks. There has been a welcome slowdown in inflation. Private sector credit extension has been weak for a protracted period, and the domestic economy in aggregate was also deemed in need of essential support. With inflation and inflation expectations slowing and nominal interest rates unchanged, real interest rates have increased, thereby signaling an effective tightening of monetary policy. International reserves remain adequate, have in fact increased further. Considering these factors, the MPC felt that a moderate easing of monetary policy was warranted. Consequently, the MPC decided to reduce the repo rate by 25 basis points to 7.5%. Commercial banks are accordingly expected to reduce the lending rates by 25 basis points and to speedily transmit the interest relief to borrowers. The bank's prime lending rate will therefore decline from 11.5% to 11.25%. This policy stance will continue to support domestic economic activity and safeguard the one-to-one link between the Namibia dollar and the South African rand, supported by the adequate stock of international reserves.
Staying with the central bank, the Bank of Namibia earlier today announced revised downward inflation forecast for 2024 and 2025 with percentages of 4.7 and 4.4 respectively, compared to previous projections of 4.9 and 4.5%. Now, this adjustment, according to the bank's governor, Johannes Kavakab, is due to the appreciation of the Namibian dollar and the moderation in crude oil prices. Here is the governor explaining the announcement.
Domestic inflationary pressures have continued to ease year to date. On average, inflation slowed to 4.8% during the first 7 months of 2024 from 6.2% recorded during the same period in 2023. The disinflation continued to be primarily driven by relatively lower average food inflation. Since the last MPC meeting, inflation eased from 4.9% in May to 4.6% in both June and July 2024, mainly reflected in the categories of alcoholic beverages, tobacco, and transport. Going forward, the forecasts of average inflation for 2024 and 2025 have been revised downwards to 4.7% and 4.4% respectively, compared to previous projections of 4.9% and 4.5%. The downward revision to the inflation forecast is attributed to the appreciation of the Namibia dollar and the moderation in crude oil prices.
Up next is a summary of tomorrow's countrywide weather forecast, followed by the economics roundup as well as the Sport Planet segment. Stay tuned. Counter Sport Planet, the segment dedicated to all things sport in action. Football dominates the segment. Manchester City's hearing into 150 alleged breaches of Premier League financial regulations could be brought forward to next month. This is according to a report in The Times. Now, the newspaper said on Monday that the start of an independent commission hearing planned for November would now begin in mid to late September. The hearing is scheduled to last 10 weeks, with a verdict likely to be delivered early in 2025. Neither the Premier League nor Manchester City have commented. The Times report added that the outcome of a separate legal case which City have brought against league rules that regulate how clubs strike sponsorship or revenue deals with businesses linked to their owners is now due in the next fortnight. That in turn, said the paper, would allow the hearing into the 115 charges, all of which City deny, to be brought forward, provided there are no further legal delays. Now, on an update on tonight's UEFA Super Cup. Kylian Mbappe is set to finally make his debut for Real Madrid when the European champions take on Europa League winners Atalanta in the UEFA Super Cup in Warsaw later on this evening. After years of trying to secure the services of Mbappe, the Spanish giants got their men when he signed a 5-year deal at the Santiago Bernabeu in June as a free agent after ending his association with Paris Saint-Germain. The France captain will now be thrown in at the deep end in his new club's first official game of the campaign, which offers him the chance to win his first European trophy. Stay tuned for your sports roundup. This concludes tonight's edition of Primetime News. Many thanks for tuning in. A reminder to follow the on-screen prompts and subscribe to the Number TV platform to stay updated on developments shaping the global village. On behalf of myself, Michael Medimba, and the crew behind the scenes, it's good night.